What if I told you there was a destination where whales are bigger than your house, glaciers are older than civilization itself, and bears have the right of way? A place where your biggest decision isn't which beach chair to grab. It's whether you're going whale watching, dog sledding, glacier trekking, or spotting bald eagles before breakfast. Today on Talk Travel with Samantha, we're talking about Alaska. And if you've ever thought Alaska was just for retirees, outdoorsy people, or someone named Gary who owns 3 fishing rods, stay tuned because you're wrong, my friend. Alaska might just be the most surprising destination in North America. Welcome back to Talk Travel with Samantha, powered by Fabulous Adventures Travel, where we help you travel smarter, vacation harder, and create stories worth telling. Today, we're heading north. Way north to the last frontier, the final frontier. Which one is it? I know they say it somehow. I don't know which one it is. Like past where the mainland ends north. We're talking glaciers, wildlife, cruise ships, hidden ports, and the one mistake almost every Alaska traveler makes before they even leave home. And later in the show, I'll tell you the moment that made me realize Alaska just isn't another cruise destination. It's something completely different. So let me just tell you a little bit about my experience. So about 20-ish years ago, I went on my first Alaskan cruise. It was on a Royal Caribbean cruise. It was on Brilliance or Radiance of the Seas, one of the two smaller cruise ships. And it was magical. It was wonderful. It was magnificent. I remember just loving it, and I thought I was going to hate it, and here's why. I do love to be warmer. I don't like to be warm, but I don't like to be freezing either. But the one thing that I found out about Alaska that I loved was it's almost like, now follow me here, this might get confusing. It's almost like a European vacation. You're going. You're doing this. You're going to a lumberjack show. You're going on a train. You're going on you're dog sledding. You're whale watching. You're kayaking. You're watching bears chase salmon up a river and catch them and throw them down their throat. Like you're doing all of those things every day that you're not just laying on a beach chilling and having a good time. Like you're having a good time, trust me, but you're just not laying on a beach chilling. So that, I will say, really shocked me about Alaska. It didn't occur to me. So when I did it 20 years ago, I don't know how long it is that you've been cruising, if you ever were cruising back then, but that was when they sent the booklets out from Royal Caribbean. It had the rings, it had like I don't want to call it a 3-ring binder. It's like the spiral notebooks, right? And they sent those out and you had to go through it to pick your excursion. Then you had to call in and pick which excursion you wanted. Well, one excursion in particular stuck out to me, and it was taking a helicopter, going through the mountains, basically, over a glacier, looking at the glacier, landing on it, and then dog sledding. And I was like, I have to do this. And I remember back in the day, it was like $500. I think it's like $1,000 per person now. And I remember saying, oh my gosh, $500 is a lot of money per person to do this excursion. But I remember saying to myself, there's no way I am missing this excursion. So we're going to talk about that one here in a little bit. But why is Alaska on so many bucket lists? Most destinations are about what you can do. Alaska is about what you can feel, right? As I mentioned before, you feel amazed. You feel tiny when you're standing there staring at this glacier and it's massive, yet it's a gazillion years old, right? The ice is calving off of it and you're like, that piece of ice was like in the dinosaur age. Like what? It's crazy to think about when you go and see this. And it's unlike Europe because the attractions are not man-made. These attractions are nature showing off. Can I just tell you something? You're going to think I'm crazy. The air smells better up there. I know probably you don't think I'm crazy after I say that. Like run that through your head for a second. The air smells better up there. Like I cannot tell you how many times I stood on my balcony or stood on the boat that I was on and I did that so many times. And I was like, oh, it just smells glorious up here. And it was like clean, fresh air. It was just unreal. So the whales don't care if you're watching. The glaciers don't care if you get the perfect photo. But somehow everything is just more incredible up there. It's just unreal up there. That's why it's on so many people's bucket list. And I don't want you to wait until you're older to go because you think it's an old person's trip. Like, do not do that, because you won't do all of the things that are available. You won't kayak, you won't canoe, you won't take a helicopter up in dog sled, because I will tell you, dog sledding is not for the faint of heart. Like, that was not easy. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, you think you're just sitting there? No. Well, I don't know if they still let you do this, but again, like I said, I'll talk about it later. They let us actually lead the sled. Like, you got to stand in the back and, what is it called? Mushering? But I also zip lined up there. So Ketchikan is known for their zip line. They have a really great zip line in Ketchikan. So it's just, there's so much to do up there. Honestly, I can't wait to go back. So let's talk about cruises. There's many, many, many cruise lines to choose from. As I told you, the very first time that I went is Royal Caribbean. I will tell you that a lot of the cruise lines will say to you, we're the best up here. And there are several that I can say, they'll say, we own it. So Princess claims that they own Alaska, and so does Holland America. So those two claim to own Alaska. They very well may. I have no idea. I don't know who owns Alaska, but those two cruises will tell you that they own Alaska. But I will tell you, every cruise line is up there at this point. Carnival made a debut up there. MSC finally made a debut, and Virgin just made a debut up there this year. So those three cruise lines are brand new to the Alaska destination. While if you name it, Disney's up there, Silver Sea is up there. Goodness, I think I got everyone. I told you Royal Caribbean, obviously. So I'm pretty sure I listed everybody, but they're all up there. So you have plenty to choose from. Norwegian, I think I missed Norwegian. So they're up there. So because for many travelers, cruising is the easiest way to experience Alaska, you get to unpack once, right? I've talked about this before. You unpack once, the hotel moves with you, you see all the different destinations, and every morning you wake up somewhere different. So there are two different areas that kind of go out, that the cruise lines go out of. It's Seattle and Vancouver. Those are the two main hubs. And the two things you want to be aware of is that you can have round trip from those two destinations, or you can have one way. One way will get you way more stops, and it will also get you up to Anchorage, Seaward, right? Or Seward, sorry, not Seaward. Jeez Louise. It will get you up to Seward. And when you get up there, that's when you can do the land tour. So I'm going to talk about one of the biggest mistakes. I'm probably already stepping ahead of myself right now, but don't forget about the land in Alaska. It's not just about cruising. Now, I will tell you, cruising is by far one of the coolest things you will do, because you're just chilling on your balcony and that's what you hear. No joke. That's what you hear. And you're like, oh, and then you see this tail pop up, and it's unreal. This is the point where you do not want to skimp on the choice of room. You want to make sure that you have a balcony in Alaska. Do not, for the love of everything holy, book an inside cabin. Okay? I promise you that. You will thank me later. You will call me up and thank me. Thank you for making me spend $1,000 more, or whatever the difference is, because of the fact that you will sit out there and watch all of the wildlife. I'm going to name all of the wildlife that we saw. So let's talk about that for a second. We saw whales. Obviously, that's a given. We saw porpoises, which we thought were dolphins. We still think we saw dolphins, but some people gave us a hard time. Ketchikan is after me at this point, because I made a viral post and they're like completely after me. And they're like, we don't have dolphins. And then they started arguing with each other about how they do have dolphins. So I don't know. I'm leaving it up to the Alaskans if they have dolphins or not. But I swear we saw dolphins. So we saw dolphins, sea otters, sea lions. We saw gray whales and humpbacks. I did not see orcas this time, but I will say the very first time I saw orcas. So the very first time off of my balcony, I saw orcas, which was unfreaking real. I will also say that the very first time that I went, I saw the northern lights. That was in September, and I think that was possibly a rare occurrence. I'm not sure, but I did see the northern lights in September. So that does not happen right now, unless of course something, crazy happens in the atmosphere or whatever. But I'm trying to think what else. We saw starfish go Go figure. That was nutty to me, I have to be honest. And so was jellyfish. I never thought in a million years I'd see starfish or jellyfish in Alaska, but I did, which I thought was crazy. The two things I didn't see that I'm still angry about, actually three things I didn't see. One I mentioned, which was orcas. I did not see a brown bear, and apparently those things just come out and chill all the time, but they were elusive for me and recluses, which makes me angry. And I did not see salmon. I know it's salmon, but I like to call it salmon. So I did not see any of those three animals. So I was very, very sad about that. But I will say that I saw a ton of other things, so I shan't complain. But that is how much... Oh my gosh, I can't believe I left out the best bird ever. I saw more bald eagles than you could possibly imagine. That was pretty cool too. So when we were sailing away, one of the coolest things that happened was this bald eagle actually just flew over the top of the ship and just kept flying around over the top of it. And I got a video of it. It was so cool to see that. And then we went on a whale watching tour in Ketchikan, and they brought us to this little island. And in the island, there was 20 bald eagles. And I swear, I don't know if they were throwing fish from down in the, throwing them fish or whatnot to get them to move, but they were flying around like crazy. It was nuts. It was so cool. They were flying around. They were coming over the boat, and that was super cool. So I did see bald eagles, a ton of them, which I thought was cool, which I will say 20 something years ago, I only saw one that was captured. So it was cool to see that in the wild this time and that I didn't see it last time. So I thought that was really, really cool. So the cruise experience, like I said, is phenomenal. You go in the inside passage, which makes it for a very smooth cruise. I will say there were moments that when you are outside of the inside passage, it is a little rough because of the fact that you're in the, great sea out there. So it's it's a little rough out there, but it was totally fine. Honestly, if you've cruised before, it's fine. And plus there's so much inside passage that you don't notice the other parts. So cruising is great. Absolutely phenomenal. And I highly suggest it. And the one thing that surprises the first time Alaska cruisers, I do want to mention, is that the scenery is all day. It's nonstop. So people ask me constantly, which side of the boat do I want to be on? And it really only matters the side of the boat if you're only going one way, right? Say you're doing the one way from, either direction, from Seward to down to Vancouver or vice versa. That's when it matters on what side of boat you're on. And to be honest, there's so much to see on both sides of the boat. It really doesn't matter. And I can tell you that till I'm blue in the face. Just because you're not on the land side, there's land on the other side. That's why it's called the inside passage, right? Or if there's not land on the other side, there's whales probably on the other side. While everyone else is seeing land on the one side, you're seeing whales. So I don't know, take your pick. Which one do you want to see? So that's what I always tell my clients. All right. So let's talk about ports. We went to, so I didn't even mention, did I mention where the heck cruise I went on? I actually was on Virgin. So I was on Virgin Voyages. I was on their third sailing up into Alaska. They had a couple right before us. I was supposed to be on the inaugural one, their Mermaiden, but life gets in the way sometimes and it isn't exactly what you plan it to be. So we ended up going on the third sailing, and we stopped at Ketchikan, Sitka, and Prince Rupert. And we also did Dawes Glacier and Endicott Arm. So Endicott Arm and Dawes Glacier were sailing. So it's like a fjord basically. And the other three were a stop. So the other times we were sailing. So I was on Virgin, and we planned ahead and booked all of our excursions ahead of time. And I have some stories for you on that. But one of the ports that we stopped at was Sitka. So I'm not going in order of my ports. I'm just going in order of favorite Alaska ports. So Sitka, this was my first time actually in Sitka, was absolutely amazing. And I'll say, here's why. We docked right there at the ship. It was super, super close. But our excursion, we booked it with Virgin, and it was called Coastal Expedition Finn Island Feast, I think. And it was so good. It was on a little rib boat, one of those little blow up, dinghy boats. That's what I like to call them. And they made us dress. Oh gosh, are you ready for this? So I was not prepared for this. One of the things that they said in the, what to bring with you when, when you're going to the excursion, it said, bring an extra pair of socks. And I was like, extra pair of socks? What the heck am I going to do with that? What do I need extra socks for? What is happening on this boat? In my head, I was like, is the whale jumping in? Am I like just getting, is water just coming over the edge? Like, what's happening? Am I jumping in that I don't know about? Why am I bringing an extra pair of socks? So we get to the excursion and they're like, here, put this on. And it's literally massive rain gear. So I'm already decked out from head to toe in warm gear and as rain gear as I possibly have. I actually have these waterproof pants that I swear by because I bought them for Alaska and I absolutely love them. And I was wearing a jacket, obviously, and all the layers and a hat and all the things. And so they're like, here, put this on. And it's almost as bad as when you have all those layers on and they're like, put this on, it's like getting on a wetsuit. If you've never put on a wetsuit, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're like hopping around, you're like, come on, man. It's like trying to put on tights if you're a woman or trying to put on tight jeans. You're like hopping around, trying to get them on. Like, this was unreal putting this stuff on. So then once you got on this rain gear, they gave you a life jacket on top of it. So now I feel like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I can't breathe. My arms are stuck out to the side. I'm miserable. It's not exactly what I was planning on for my, leisure ride on the rib boat to go see all of the whales that were just going to come up so I could pet them is what I'm envisioning. But now I can't twist or turn or breathe at all. So I know I'm doing a good job at selling this excursion, but I promise you it was amazing. So we get on the rib boat and we start to head out and they're like, we're going straight to the area where we know that there's usually whales. And so we're like, awesome. And in my head at this point, I've already seen whales while I'm eating dinner. I've seen whales off of my balcony. So I have all the faith in the world that they're bringing us to the whale location. I am not under the impression that I'm not seeing whales. I know I'm seeing whales because that's all I've done the entire cruise at this point is see whales. So sure enough, they bring us to this very calm sort of bay area. And there's 3 whales in there swimming together. And they were spotted gray. I think that's what they're called, spotted gray whales. And they were unreal. Like, it was just the coolest thing. To hear that blow in silence, like that puff of air and water in silence, it's just the coolest sound. Like, it was so cool to hear and to just watch them and no one's speaking, just so you know. Nobody on the rib boat is speaking, not even the naturalist, not the captain. Nobody is speaking because we're all in awe over these whales that were literally on the same level as. So I'm no longer in this big cruise ship boat on deck 15 looking down on these whales. I'm literally on the same level. So that was pretty cool. I have to be honest. It was like one of the coolest things. Just to hear that and experience it and just see it and nobody speaking was really cool. So the naturalist did start to speak, obviously, and he kind of told us, what we were looking at and what kind of whales they were and how cool it was to be able to see 3 of them together. So it was just a cool event. So once we left there, we went and saw sea otters and, oh gosh, I'm trying to think what else we saw. They taught us about the fauna and all the trees and all the natural habitats and the seaweed and the water and all the things. So we had a really, really great excursion. And the 2 guides that we had a captain and the naturalist, and they were just they had so much knowledge. They were well-versed. They were just phenomenal. So after that, we went to the feast in the lodge and it was crab and salmon and prime rib. And the food was just phenomenal. And then here's one of the best parts. We had s'mores. They did a whole campfire. We had s'mores. It was just a great excursion in Sitka. I did not see the town of Sitka. We didn't make it there. We ended up just seeing the little port there, and the port is phenomenal. So if you are cruising into Sitka, the port is just great. There is deep fried bread there. It's called Alaskan deep fried bread. That's phenomenal. So do not miss that cart there at the port of Sitka. Ketchikan, an amazing town. They're known as the salmon capital of the world. Can you believe that? So they have all these cute little houses on this creek. It's like a stream, right? And it's called Creek Street, actually. And they're not just houses. I shouldn't say that. They're actually storefront and whatnot. And definitely don't miss Creek Street. Super, super cool there in Ketchikan. They have fantastic float plane excursions. We did a whale watching excursion. Great. It was awesome. That one was really, really good. So Juneau, here's a good one. You can't drive there. So think about that. You cannot drive to Juneau. The state capital can only be reached by plane or boat. Is that freaking crazy or what? That's Alaska for you. It's home of one of the most famous glaciers in the state. So this is the one that I took the helicopter up and went on top of the glacier and dog sledded. So Juneau is where we did that. It was phenomenal. Skagway, awesome. It's a living piece of gold rush history. There is a great train there that you could totally take up to the glacier to see another glacier, which is so cool. They have a lot of lumberjack shows. So that's a great, Skagway's awesome. And it's got a cute little downtown street, which is really, really cute. It's like a Western old movie. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes that people make. Mistake number 1, thinking Alaska is warm because it's summer. So I gotta be honest, I messed this one up, and I've even been there. So, and honestly, but the problem is I suck at packing. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I suck at packing, and I packed at 11 o'clock at night for an 8 o'clock in the morning flight. So know that I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but that's just the day that it was the day before. So yeah, so I missed a lot of sweaters and I missed a lot of sweatshirts, and I was pretty bummed about that. I almost bought like a Seattle sweatshirt, an Alaska sweatshirt, but I made do because we had laundry on board the ship, so it's fine. So pack layers, lots of layers. Mistake number 2, booking no excursions. You came all this way. Go whale watching. Take the helicopter. Spend the $1,000 on the helicopter. I promise you. Spend the $1,000 on the seaplane. Walk on a glacier. Go do the experience that I did, because that is what you want to do up there. This is not a cruise to just sit around and be like, well, I bought this for the ship. Nope. No. Do that in the Caribbean. Don't do that up there. Mistake number 3, spending all day inside the ship. Exactly what I kind of just said. The scenery is outside. So make sure that you have a balcony. Make sure that you're sitting outside. Make sure you're sitting by a window, because I promise you, you will see so much wildlife that will blow your mind. You will just be like, what the heck is happening here? This is insane. So, and cool wildlife. Like, we're not talking about like a raccoon and a squirrel. We're talking about some cool wildlife. So make sure that you're doing that. Mistake number 4 is booking just a cruise. I know I mentioned that earlier, but I really, really want to stress this and really stress it, that make sure you're not just booking a cruise. Did I just do that this time? Yes, unfortunately, it's time constraints, but book the land with it. There is an amazing train out of Anchorage, out of Seward. The train is phenomenal. It's a window train. You can see through the top of it and just see all the things. Like, don't miss the train. There is an entire event. I want to say an event, a whole nother vacation doing it that way. So every Alaska traveler has a moment. Mine happened while dog sledding on a glacier. I know I mentioned that earlier, and I want to mention it again. So I booked the excursion. We get to the top of the glacier, and I was like, this isn't, first of all, the ride up there was incredible. Seeing all the views was incredible. But then getting up there and seeing the camp, the dog camp that's up there, and seeing all the dogs and they're barking like crazy because they're so excited. They're ready to go. They're ready to run. And then seeing the puppies, there were puppies. I'm telling you, it was an experience. So they hooked the dogs up, and we were able to have 2 people on a sled, and it was actually me and my mom, strangely enough. And I don't remember why it was the 2 of us, but it was. And one of you sat and the other one controlled it. And they taught you kind of how to control it, and you didn't really have to control it, got to be honest, because there was already a path and the dogs just followed the path because they know what they're doing. You just had to learn how to brake. And there was a foot brake that's on the back that you have to push. And then of course, pull up on the reins of the dogs, right? So I cannot begin to tell you what an absolutely cool experience that was, and how I want to do it again in my older age now that I'm not so young and can appreciate it even more. I got to be honest, I appreciated it immensely, but oh my gosh, I'm dying to try it again. Like, honestly, do it again. So know that those things happen when you're just amazed by it. And I will say that actual excursion was the one that made me say, I need to come back here again. And here's the other thing that I always tell my clients. I always say that you can go to Alaska several times and not do the same thing. You're not going to be bored. It's not like going to the same beach in the Caribbean. It's not like going to the same little town in Europe. I know there's a lot to do in Europe. But I've been to a couple of the little towns in Europe, the same thing. And it really does feel the same because there's not excursions like that. In Alaska, you zip line one time, which is what I did, right? I went to Ketchikan the first time I zip lined. And the second time I took a whale watching tour that was unreal as well, and just experienced that and walked around the town. The first time I didn't walk around the town. You know what I could do next time? Go to a lumberjack show, because I didn't go to a lumberjack show. And apparently, you didn't hear this from me, there's a distillery in Ketchikan that apparently is phenomenal. So I'm bummed I missed that too. So guess what? I got to go back to Alaska to try all the other things. So in closing, I'm totally over time at this point because I'm like rambling on about Alaska that I love. Just go. If you've been thinking about it, don't overthink it. Go to Alaska. Whether it's your first cruise or your 15th cruise, whether you're traveling with kids, grandparents, friends, or just your camera, Alaska has a way of surprising everyone. And like I said, don't just cruise. There's a whole land trip you shouldn't miss. Well, that's it for this week. I'm Samantha, and thank you so much for joining me on Talk Travel with Samantha, powered by Fabulous Adventures Travel. If you'd like to book any of the destinations I talked about, contact me at the website at talktravelwithsamantha.com or find me on Facebook at Samantha-Fabulous Adventures Travel. I'd love to get you to Alaska because I'm super passionate about it. Until next episode, travel smarter and vacation harder, and we'll see you next episode.